Hello, Essie here with a process video for Lottie Loves Paper, and this layout is for the challenge theme of brush strokes for the 24th of February. So I'm starting with a sheet of mixed media paper from Vicki Boutin, her foundations paper, and I've got Cosmic Shimmer Watercolour paints, and I'm starting off by making myself a little palette to just see what colours I want to use, and yeah, just get a little bit of a colour palette going to see which colours I want to actually put down on the background of my layout. I want to use the autumn colours. I'm going to be using Vicki Boutin's Fernwood collection, and I've got these beautiful paints in all the autumnal colours. I'm just going to pop that palette in front of me to keep an eye on which ones I want to use on the actual layout itself. I'm just marking 1.5 inches in from each edge of my paper so that I get my paint strokes across the middle of the paper at equal distance from each edge. Not being hugely precise, it's just a guide, but obviously I don't want, you know, drastic differences between my lines. Using my craft mat to kind of mix my colours up a bit and get those different shades of greens turning into browns, orange, and ending in a sort of a golden yellow. I love these paints. They're really pretty. They're shimmery. Hopefully you'll be able to see on some of the stills at the end. You can see sort of the shimmery colours. That green at the bottom in particular is pretty. It's got a gold shimmer to it. It's one of my favourites. So moving on to the oranges. And the reason I'm doing these autumnal colours is I've got a lovely photograph of myself with Sarah and another friend Sharon at the Go-Go Getaway retreat last October, and we took some photographs against a backdrop of the beautiful autumnal trees that were in the grounds of the hotel. So wanting to do a layout to obviously coordinate with that photo. And the Fernwood collection again is perfect for that. Beautiful autumnal colours and foliage themes in that collection. I've had the collection for ages, not used it yet, so this is my first layout using the collection, and it's beautiful. So I've laid my paint strokes down across my page, and I'm finishing off with some splatters to add a little bit more detail, watering my paint down a little bit so that I get nice splatters, keeping the colours together. And those big bold paint strokes form the background of my layout. Really easy to do, but really effective, I think. So there's my photograph. And I'm going to start by popping that onto a white background. I don't know why I didn't leave a white edge when I trimmed it down, but I didn't. So using some photo paper just to map my photo. I always like to have a white border. And I've got some of the Fernwood ephemera beside me there that you can see that I've already kind of got ready. And I've also got the stamps. So as well as even painting my paint strokes, the Fernwood stamp, one of the Fernwood stamp sets has this block stamp in there, which I think looks a bit like a paint stroke. It could be wood grain as well. But it's really handy, a really handy basic background stamp, I think, and I'm just using it to add a little bit more detail into my background, trying to match my colours. I'm using a mixture of Distress Oxides and archival ink pads, just because choosing the ink pads that I have the right colours in. And now I've done that, I'm going to come in with some of the other stamps from the collection, the leaves. Again, trying to use the same colours. I've got a sepia colour there. And I think I'm using the one colour for this leaf, sort of all over. Leaving my photograph in place so that I can see what's going to be, which area is obviously going to be seen. Adding some in green as well down the bottom there. And a yellow one at the top. I put that fossilised amber Distress Oxide ink pad, and mine's really juicy, it's quite wet, so I put too much ink on the first time, so I just stamped it off on some scrap and started again. And then I'm going to come in with a smaller leaf in a darker brown. I think that's coffee, that archival ink pad. And adding that same colour all over. I love making these backgrounds with stamped images, just to add a little bit more detail. I realise that I'm going to probably cover the large majority of them up, but I think even if you do that, it just creates a really good foundation for the page. Again, adding in some more smaller leaves. And I think that's probably me done with the stamping. There is a little dotty stamp in there as well, which I had beside me ready to use, but I end up not using it. So starting off with placing my photograph, not quite central. And then I've got some tags and ephemera that I'm going to layer up beside the photograph, on either side actually, and I'm just trimming that down because some of it's going to be tucked behind the photograph, and I actually use that bit I've trimmed off underneath the photograph later on. Adding some foam sheet to just raise some of the layers of that ephemera a little. And I've put my photograph on a foam sheet as well. Trimming that down again. And part of the reason I'm trimming it down as well is because where the foam sheet is behind my photograph, it wouldn't quite tuck in. So I had to trim some off so that I could get it to go in. Where I fiddle around with that for ages. And I've got these beautiful trees from the ephemera, which I'm going to add in beside my photograph as well. Start bringing in the colours from my background paint strokes. And end up moving the whole thing. I think this bit takes me longer than the rest of the whole layout together. I've chopped a lot off. I've edited a lot of it out because I fiddle around for ages getting this right, in the right place, or in the place I'm happiest with. Moving it again. And I think I've finally decided. And that's where it stays now. Popping those trees in behind. They add a little bit of height behind the photograph as well. And then that green label has actually got a calendar on it, and my original plan was to circle the date, but I end up covering most of it up, so I don't do that in the end. But it just obviously ties in with the green paint strokes behind it. And this cork word is from Peartree Cutfiles. Using that as my title. Just want to overlap it with the photograph a little bit, make everything connect up. And then I've got some quilling shapes. This is my first attempt. I I was inspired by the lovely Rebecca and a recent layout that she shared, and had a go. I did quilling many hundreds of years ago, and thought it looked really pretty on Rebecca's layout, so wanted to try it. It took me for ages. It's blooming fiddly, and I haven't videoed it because yeah, it just took me forever fiddling around to get bits right, and there may have been some swearing, but I'm really pleased with what I ended up with. And I will have another go, and so I'm just going to use those quilled shapes as embellishments on my page. I've added a camera sticker there from the Vicki, from the Fernwood sticker book, and now starting to add the quilling shapes around my photograph. I'm using the Nouveau glue, which Sarah Jane also stocks in Lottie Loves Paper. I like that bottle. It's got a nice thin nib. And faffing around with this piece to get it in the right place. Goodness knows why I didn't edit this bit out. So just fast forward this bit. Finally decide on where I'm gonna place that. And then I've got that bit at the top, the yellow. I did obviously try to make some pieces in the coordinating colours so I could all tie it all in with those paint strokes that are the foundation for my page. Green leaf down the bottom there. That one's got some brown in it as well. Got a bit fancy and used more than one colour. Oops, see, look, and I've pulled it apart there. It's a learning curve. I need to practice, definitely. There are lots of YouTube videos though that I watched to learn, so I shall be spending more hours watching and practicing. Applying some more glue. And I'm going to leave you a little bit of background music. You don't want me chuntering over the top while I'm positioning all of these embellishments. So just leave you with the process of putting together my page for now. So the quilling is done. All the pieces are on that I want to use. And so I'm going to come back in with some more ephemera and also some of the stickers to add some more details. I've got the Fernwood sticker sheet, but I've also got some stickers from previous Vicki Boutin collections, which, and I love that about her stuff. It all ties in. You can mix and match quite happily throughout the collections. And that's what I'm doing here. So I've got this lovely little flag banner, but I don't want the blue. So I'm going to just trim the blue flag off and put that, I might be able to use that on something else. And then I'm going to trim the yellow and reds, and I try and use that, sort of think about using that up the top there, but decide not to. And so I've just got the greens there underneath that camera to fill that little gap. I've got that circle there, really want to put something in that gap there, but can't make that circle work. So that goes back on the sheet. I've got the chipboard stickers, just adding that little butterfly. And I've got there's some gold dots on that chipboard sticker sheet. I was a bit heavy-handed with that one, and I peeled it off and left the sticky bit on the backing, so I had to add a little bit of glue. And then I've got some of these beautiful Peartree bits, which are lovely autumn leaves. So I'm just going to dot some of those about. I add the yellow one, and then I fiddle around with something else, and then I go back and add another one. So they gradually, I think I use about 3 different colours that gradually appear on the layout. And I've got the green and brown ones there. And I'm using silicone glue gel to just add those on. Fiddle around with that one, trying to add another one in there, but don't for now. Back to that space, adding a couple more of those gold dots. And then of course some Nouveau dots, which I always use to finish off a page. In the stills at the end, you'll see that I actually fill the gap with a little bit more detail above the photograph. I think I pop another of the Peartree leaves in there and some Nouveau dots. I did that off camera after I'd looked at it a little bit more. I felt it needed something in that gap. So you'll see some added bits on the photographs that I don't do on the video, but there's just a couple of bits. And after I've added my Nouveau drops, I go in with some gold splatters as well. And I've still, luckily, I still have some Heidi Swap gold shine. So just adding some splatters of that for a little bit more gold detail. And there you have my layout. There are all sorts of ways you can use paint and brush strokes on your pages. I've used probably the most simplest. I do hope you've enjoyed my video, and I look forward to seeing you here again soon. Bye.